This week on Behind the Lens, I'm joined by Ben Andrew. Ben lives in Bedfordshire and works at the headquarters for the RSPB as their picture researcher. He's an accomplished photographer in his own right, having won various competitions, including the Countryfile calendar comp with his image, Happy Hedgehog. His work is featured in BBC Wildlife magazine and has a broad collection of natural history images. Let's find out what are Ben's 3 most memorable images. So thanks for joining me today, Ben. We're here at the RSPB headquarters, the Lodge, and we're in its library, so I feel like we shouldn't be speaking too loudly. You're quite unique really, because with part of your job, you're looking at thousands of other photographers' images, but you're an accomplished photographer in your own right. So I'm looking forward to seeing what your 3 most memorable images are. So what's the first one?
So the first image that is memorable is actually quite a recent image. The main reason I really like this image is because it's one of my favourite bird species, and it's a photo of a green woodpecker, an adult visiting the nest and feeding its young. It's a great experience to be so close to a bird that is one of your favourite birds, like top 5 kind of birds.
Okay.
Even though it's a common species, I just love the way they look. Bear in mind, the green woodpeckers are a bit funny. They only really come back to the nest every sort of 40 minutes or so to feed their young, but they're not feeding like a blue tit kind of comes back, sort of 50 times an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
You have to wait a very long time for each visit. So you're already you've already spent 2 or 3 hours there, and you've got, you've had 3 visits or something, 4 visits maybe. But then I'm trying to do something maybe a bit creative if I can. So what I did was I sort of moved around and found an angle that a few other photographers that are around there weren't really picking, which is kind of shooting against the sun, so it was a little bit backlit. And then shooting through the leaves in the foreground.
Yeah.
So I like this technique with my photography. Is just pick a little hole, which just adds something a bit different, because you get different colours. I mean, you can see in the photo, you've got all these different colour greens. So you've got leaves that are catching the sun, leaves that are in shade. So suddenly the frame has got all these different colours around.
Almost a bit of bokeh. Is it bokeh in the background, or is it not quite?
Yeah, you've got these kind of globules, circles, which is the sky coming through the other leaves in the background. It takes good for me it took like 3 or 4 hours just to find the shot I wanted. Then I've just got to wait for the bird to come in and not muck it up, basically, not lose focus. And even then, the birds will have to do certain things. So it's still one of my favourite photos, and I can't complain. But if we get this opportunity again, I'd go back and do it again and try again. It all came together, really, yeah.
So your second image, what's this one about?
So these are northern gannets. It's the gannet species you see all around the coast of Britain and Ireland. But it was taken on the island of Saltee, which is just off the coast of the Republic of Ireland. I've always wanted to photograph on a gannet colony, and I think the reason why this was one of my favourite images is because it's taken a long time to be able to get into a position where I'm staring a gannet in the eye and actually being able to photograph it in a way I want. So I've tried to get to places where, it's famous sort of like Bass Rock, places like that. I've tried to get to places where gannets are accessible, and I've failed lots of times in terms of the seas not allowing you to get out there on the boat, that kind of thing. Landing is not possible. I've been to other places where I have been with gannets, places like Bempton Cliffs, where it's really great to see them, but then it's not the location for me in terms of photography. So that's probably more. It's more about the personal experience and the journey it's taken to be able to get close to gannets that's kind of made it one of my favourite images.
Well, you mentioned Bempton Cliffs, and the amount of photographers. It must be like a conveyor belt that do gannets there and other places around the UK. So I suppose whenever you've got a subject that is very common and charismatic like a gannet, it does make you kind of think, well, what can I do? That's a little bit out there.
So one of the images I had in mind was, and actually it was the weather was almost too good for this, but it was a high key sort of image, because they're a white bird, they suit a white background, I think. And when you maybe that might be the only time I ever go there, I was thinking, well, maybe I won't come away with the sort of full range of images that I might have wanted in my head. But then on the last day, we actually had overcast conditions, so that's perfect. So we'd had 2 days of sunshine. Loved sunshine, but it was nice to be able to shoot in a different kind of weather. So once I started thinking about different ways of shooting them in higher key, and obviously just close-up headshots and them looking at you and things like with a nice white background overexposing a bit. And I think I was just laying down photographing two, but as you can see from the image, in the end, what happened was there was a lone kind of bird behind who was almost trying to display to the two. So it might have been a lone, might have been a single, a single bird. And so that kind of started becoming quite interesting because you had the two displaying and then you had the one behind. And so all I ended up doing was getting pre-focused with the idea of just shooting through the hole that the two are making with their necks and focusing on the one behind.
So it's the same concept as the leaves, kind of.
Yes,
in that you were using, but you're using gannets rather than leaves in this case.
Yeah, and it was the shapes. So it kind of made... You still knew what the two in the foreground were. You still knew they were both gannets, but the focus was actually on the one behind. And so that's all. It basically, it all came together. But it's not as easy. It didn't all come naturally straight away because the two need to almost be pointing their beaks at a certain angle to make that kind of certain kind of shape around the one. So, but yeah, once I've nailed it, I was quite happy. And it's become one of my favourite pictures I've ever taken, I think. So, yeah.
So your third and final images.
Yep.
What makes this so memorable?
Okay. So the final images are cormorant. To start with, I suppose the reason why I quite like it is the idea it's not filling the frame, and the other two pictures have shown sort of more frame filling kind of shots. This is a more environmental picture. And actually, I do like that sort of style of putting a species in context with its environment. And I don't do it enough, but I do it maybe more than other photographers do. In this situation, there was no way I was going to get any closer anyway, because the cormorant was on an island and there's a lake surrounding the island, and I'm on the shore kind of thing. So. And at autumn time, those silver birch leaves just go this lovely kind of yellows and oranges. So it had this wonderful autumnal feel to it. It's actually a nesting place for cormorants in inland nesting site, but in the autumn and the winter, it's more like a roosting site. And as soon as sort of sun comes up, they all leave and go and start fishing for the day.
It's that classic pose with cormorants, isn't it? Everyone, I suppose, whenever you're out with your camera and you see a cormorant, you want it to kind of do that angel.
I think so, yeah.
Angel wings out.
I like that pose. It's quite prehistoric. I've never seen a pterodactyl, but it's quite pterodactyl. I've seen Jurassic Park, but it's quite pterodactyl-like in terms of prehistoric in some way. They're a prehistoric-looking bird.
Yeah,
they do this sort of prehistoric sort of thing where they're sort of sitting in a tree with their wings open.
Archaeopteryx sort of thing.
That's the one. Yeah. So it's kind of that was the pose I was after, with the colours mixed in with the sort of like delicate little leaves. You've got this kind of painted kind of feel to it.
Well, the kind of autumnal leaves, that golden brown, because the rest of the image is quite muted, you're drawn straight away, and with the cormorant being black, it stands out from that. So it's kind of compositionally worked.
I was really lucky, just the fact that bird was sitting on that part of the tree, and the golden colours come up behind it. It's probably my most artistic. Like, it's the image that I could see on a wall, most of mine. So that's why I like it, but it's also part of a longer term project where I actually visit every season. The autumn image was the final image in the sort of seasonal kind of seasonal images I wanted to get. I ended up winning the seasons category of the British Wildlife Photography Awards with 4 images of cormorants from 4 different seasons, all from the same site. So again, that's probably why it's a favourite image of mine, because it represents really good success from an awards point of view, but also from an effort point of view. The fact I went back to the same place, which can be kind of mind-numbingly boring sometimes. So
you've got to put the time and the effort in, haven't you, to get the images.
Yeah. So, but it all came off, and again, it's sort of become one of my favourites.
Well, it's been fascinating, Ben, hearing your kind of perspective on these images. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Why not check out these films from the rest of the channel? Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, leave a comment below, and subscribe. Until next time, cheers.